Hello, I'm Judy Stiles. Thank you for joining us this week on Newsmakers. Well, it's the time of year when we visit with faculty members and staff members at Missouri Southern who are retiring, many after many long years, and they're recognizable on campus as well as the community. Today, I'm pleased to visit with Dr. Vicki Roettger, the Missouri Southern biology professor who's retiring. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for asking.
21 years or so here at Missouri Southern.
21 years.
What are some thoughts that come to mind as you see the end getting closer for the end of the career?
It's amazing. I've been in the process of packing and finding things that I'd forgotten about, or notes that the students had given me, thanking me, those type of things. It's been quite the emotional roller coaster somewhat with realizing I am leaving.
And of course, this is the busy time of year as we're recording this at the end of the semester. Everything's coming in due
yes.
and everything's like that. So.
Yes.
Well, I'd like in this program to share with our viewers a little bit of background, and perhaps we'll start off with biology. People might be curious, what sparked your interest even before you started going on to higher education? What made you interested in biology?
There was just something about the human body that fascinated me, and in undergraduate, I thought about being a doctor and then realized I didn't really want to treat patients. I wanted just the knowledge that the medical students had, so that's when I went to graduate school in human physiology and received my doctorate and worked 6 years doing research, and then decided I wanted to teach, so came here.
So that transition from doing the research to teaching, that's a big step as well.
It was. I was a bit luckier probably than some people because my father was a chemistry professor at a university, so I had gathered some idea of how it was going to be for teaching, but I've enjoyed it.
Right. So teaching, so Missouri Southern, 21 years here on campus.
Yes, this has been my only teaching job.
So what was it like, reflecting, 21 years ago when you came to campus? Is their first chance to be in that classroom and work with the students?
I really enjoyed it. I was very scared, but hopefully it didn't show. The department was so welcoming, and Dr. Messick was my department chair then, and it was just really good. And the one thing I was thinking about was I was the second woman hired into the biology department, and Dr. Bay had only been here a year, and the person I replaced, who retired, was rather upset that he was being replaced by a female. But it's been nothing but open arms here, and also.
And that's an aspect that we've seen that change in the sciences, the women in the field.
Oh, definitely. I'd say we probably are about equal, or possibly a little bit more on more women majors in the department. And definitely with the faculty, I'd say I think we have more women
than the men on the department. So what was it like in the early days when you came in, and perhaps it was unusual to have a female teaching a science-related biology class, relating maybe to the students, the young women who were taking classes?
Hopefully that came across, that everybody was comfortable with it, and I never really had any problems with it with either students or faculty. It was a little unusual in that all the students wanted to call me Mrs. Roettger instead of Dr. Roettger, and yet that actually still happens today. So I'm not sure where exactly that came from, but I feel like we hit it off right away. I started picking up advisees right away and mentoring and everything, so it's been good.
Now, you've seen the develop nationwide with the focus on STEM and more women?
Yes.
Have you been pleased with how that nationwide emphasis has really brought more people to the field?
Very much so. I think we're still a little bit low out working in research and more of the physical sciences. It's still not quite equal yet, but definitely in biology we found our place, and definitely those that go on to the professional schools and all. So it's been good to see that increase happen.
Right. Now, I know you've taught a variety of classes over the years. Everybody have I call it the general biology, but then the more pre-professional and specialized courses.
Right. Due to my background, both undergraduate and graduate, I was able to teach everything from human physiology and pathophysiology to cell biology and molecular biology, and that area has grown by leaps and bounds in the last 10 years. So it keeps you on your toes because the textbooks don't stay current.
So the field itself keeps changing.
The field itself, pretty much every year the textbook is already out of date. So we've had to keep up with it.
So from a perspective for the audience, from a professor's point of view, you are constantly learning to be able to share with the students.
Exactly, and reading a lot of papers, doing a lot of search online if we can't get the papers, that kind of thing. So I always am trying to stay a couple of steps ahead of the students. But some of them can still trip me up occasionally.
So they're out there doing their own research.
They're doing their own research because they're really interested in it. So that's always a good sign.
Now you mentioned online. I know that in the last 20 years we've seen tremendous change in technology. How has that affected the teaching of working with the students?
I probably haven't used tech as much as I could. I have only ever taught one actual online class. I much prefer the interaction with the students,
face-to-face in the classroom.
Face-to-face, telling jokes or whatever, and you can really see when you're looking at their faces whether they're getting it or not, and if they aren't, you can change your tactics and all, which, so I use Blackboard, but mostly as a delivery service.
It's a communication tool for the classroom.
Communication tool. But some of it we've seen in the laboratories with the equipment that we've gotten, and the fact that our microscopes can now hook up to the computer and we can show it on the wall or through the projector and all. So that part has been great.
So it's really enhanced your ability to teach. You're not gathering around this little microscope looking in it. You can just say, now look at the wall. You can see the screen of what I'm looking at.
Exactly. I can see exactly what they see. Always before it was like, are you looking at the same thing I'm looking at?
Come look over your shoulder, let me look in there too. Right?
Exactly. Right. So in that way. But I think we always have to keep in mind that it you know, as good as the technology is, there is still this interaction that is necessary to help them learn.
Right, and that learning process, especially when you're talking about, you know, pathophysiology and those types of classes, that some students say, wow, that sounds like a tough class. So you've got that big learning curve for many people that they have to handle.
It is. I've been fortunate to teach all levels, from the freshman classes up through special topics and things like that, and it does take a lot to make that transition to where you're synthesizing and applying as opposed to just memorizing, and some struggle a bit more with it than others do, but hopefully we get them all there so that they can go into the career they want.
Now, career-wise, biology really sets the basis for a lot of different careers. You know, everybody says, "Oh, you're going to go into medicine," but there's a lot of things you can do with biology.
Oh, there's all the pre-professional, but right now we're seeing an upsurge in the conservation, ecology, fieldwork type site. We've gotten a couple of really good young professors with research programs. They're getting started and everything, and so the hope is that it'll bring in a lot more students on that side, because traditionally the department's been a little bit more toward the pre-professional.
Right.
So we're like seeing that, and then our environmental health and safety program is also growing, and there's a lot of job openings in a lot of different areas, and they make pretty good money graduating with their bachelors.
So there's a lot of opportunities for students, as they say, of
there
a
are.
biology major. And the major itself has grown tremendously over these years as well, the number of students.
Yes, the numbers of students has grown. I don't recall exactly what it was back in '97, but I know we're over 450 majors at the moment. So it's, yeah, the classes are expanding and things to accommodate everybody.
So over these years, you've worked with a lot of students, obviously in the classroom, advising, as you mentioned earlier. You know,
yes, I usually carry a heavy load, 60 to 70 advisees every year, and that has it's a whole different aspect than in the classroom.
People don't realize that there's a lot going on behind the scenes.
There is a lot going behind because we feel a lot of responsibility that they're getting what they need, and not just the classwork, but things like internships and experience and some of the research now, so that they are well-rounded and look really good on their applications for professional school. And there are a number of other things that I've learned over the years of what the schools are looking for.
Right.
And so I feel I have a lot that I've been able to help them, guide them, and then of course when they do get in, it's very satisfying and joyful and everything.
You see their success.
Yes, their success really means a lot to me, and it's a different feeling. And then when they leave notes and thank you for it and everything, and you get a little teary because they've done it.
So the saying that teacher touches a life forever, you really see that through the people you're working with.
We do. I mean, a number of the students over at KCU in this freshman class were my advisees, and helping them write their personal statements. You learn a lot about them and everything, and it just, when they get it and they get accepted and they come and tell you, and you're just like, yay.
Well, having worked here at Southern for a number of years, you probably see those successful people now graduates and working in professional fields.
Yes, that's a little scary because it shows how much time has gone past. Sometimes I won't, if it's more than 10, 12 years ago, it's hard to remember sometimes
which class
who they
were you
are.
in, right?
Yeah, which class. But still, they'll remind me, and it'll jog my memory, and we talk, and a lot of them will still come back and visit or still email me. I've got a number of other students that are like just finishing medical school from a few years ago, and so they let me know what to tell the future students, current students, and that's a big help also.
So in addition to faculty mentoring, that kind of peer mentoring plays a big role.
It does. It really does. We try to have them come over to talk to our clubs, to let them know, okay, this is what they really want to see, this is how to do an interview, that type of thing. So I think they get a lot out of giving back from what they also received when I had other students come.
Well, when we look at courses such as biology or the field, it's more than obviously a lecture course. A lot of it is hands-on. You are having a laboratory.
Yes,
so
yes.
That takes a commitment from the instructor to help supervise, but the students as well, to learn through that hands-on application.
It does. It does. When you're trying to teach 32 students how to use the microscope for the first time, we're running around a lot. We don't have TAs here, so it is, and for the most part, we really try to have the same professor teaching the lecture, and then that same professor teaching the lab for continuity. And it does, but it does take a lot to help everybody with new procedures and everything. But most of them are very understanding about that, and they're patient while I'm helping this person, because I'll know I'll help them when I get over there.
They're all in the same group together.
They're all in the same group together, and I think it really does add a completely different aspect to the learning by able to do the hand, and we've been able to incorporate a lot more of the more recent type labs, like using electrophoresis and PCR in our freshman level classes to show them, yes, this is what we're doing now.
So the new technology's here, you're using it now.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So, and we've gotten some new equipment from the renovations, and so those are going to come up online soon, and probably come back in a few years and I won't recognize the labs anymore.
Well, speaking of the renovations, you were, Reynolds Hall was home, and then you went through a transition a few years ago where they had to move everybody out and try, so.
Yes, we were down in a completely different area where a lot of people couldn't figure out where we were anymore.
Down the hill, around the corner.
Down the hill, around the corner. In the long, when we first moved, we thought, oh, you know, how's this going to work? Having to move all the equipment and everything. But in the long run, I think it actually worked out quite well because we weren't around all the construction going on.
No interruptions.
Back at Reynolds. And while the offices were a lot smaller, but we all were able to make it work. And then got, we've been back up for a year now, 2 semesters, and getting to work in the new labs has been really, really nice because they work.
And a state of the art. And I know one of the things when it opened up, they said, we have the newest here for people.
We do. And that has been a big help. And we've gotten such that we don't have to share a whole lot, which is what we had to do previously. So that's been really nice. We know those pipettes are going to be there.
So I have what I need. I can teach my class, and I don't have to say who has what I need. Tying that together. Well, you mentioned student organizations as well. So for the audience, in addition to classes, you have clubs and organizations.
We do. We have 3 clubs in the department. We have the biology club, the caduceus club, which is mostly the pre-professional, and we have the environmental health club. I originally was very involved with the biology club, and it kind of went back and forth. Some years it was more on the conservation side, some years it was more pre-professional. Now it's just a really good mix, and they just ran a successful blood donation.
Campus blood drive for the...
Thank you. Yes, a campus blood drive. And so even though I'm not one of the sponsors anymore, I still like knowing that things are going well. And
that makes a difference in a student's career, at Southern.
It does, especially if they get involved with the leadership. And, you know, it doesn't just have to be our clubs. One of our majors has been, or a couple of our majors have been heavily involved in CAB, and one in the with the Student Senate and things like that. And so it doesn't always have to be just biology.
A departmental club.
Departmental club. They can branch out, and anything that shows leadership and commitment to it also, rather than just signing up but never going to the meetings or helping or anything like that. So we highly encourage it.
Now, I know another aspect that you've been involved with students as part of our international mission is travel abroad. We had a program here, I think it was last summer when you came back from a trip to Great Britain.
Yes.
Tell me about that opportunity that you've been able to have in your career, traveling with the students overseas.
It has been unbelievable. I've been with the student trips about 5 or 6 of them. Not all of them have I led, but I started traveling with the students about after the first year I was here. We did a trip down to Belize, and it was very much a medical mission type trip, and introduced me, even though I didn't know exactly what I was doing back then. But now there's a little bit more involved now with doing budgets and
the planning,
of it, and there's a lot behind the scenes with that. But when you actually get on the trip with the students, it's worth it all. And I'm not sure I would have gotten to travel. I mean, I've been to Central America, to Britain a couple times now. We went to Czech Republic and Poland and Denmark, and then the end of May this year, we are taking a group of students, and we're calling it Anatomical Italy, and we're visiting a lot of the anatomical museums and the connection sort of with art and also we almost have it all together.
Trying to tie the loose ends together as we're recording this program.
The last few things, but it should be a good trip, and I think the students really learn a lot. Coming from this area.
Right, they may not have been overseas.
Exactly, so even getting their passport and then everything. And then once you get over there, they just get excited about everything. And that helps us then stay excited also. And we've never had problems, knock on wood, with any of our trips, so that's always been nice too.
Great. Now I know that when you travel, you have a specific topic, like you said this year. I know you had like the history ties in last year's trip. But students are learning more than they can get from a lecture or a book in the classroom. They're seeing firsthand Charles Darwin's workshop or something like that.
Exactly, and that was the when I developed the class, and we call it Roots of Science. And initially, they had taken a couple trips that kind of incorporated physics and all, but the last couple of ones we've done all in biology. And I think it really does, if they can see some of the original equipment that those scientists used and what they brought to it and everything. I'm passionate about history, and especially history of medicine and history of science. So for me, it's being able to bring this love of both into the classroom. However, I will say the idea for Anatomical Italy was Dr. Alla Berry's, because she's director of our cadaver lab, and she's much more involved in the anatomy than I am, but I'm helping her because she's not gone on one of the trips, so it works really well together. And I was very excited when she came up with the idea.
So kind of faculty mentoring faculty.
It is. It really is. Kind of We're both learning, so it's good.
You mentioned your interest in the history aspect. So from your point of view, students need an appreciation of where we've been before they know where we're going.
I really think so, especially the students of today, the freshmen and all. They've been around technology their whole lives and everything, and so if you have to show them what these microscopes look like and what this is, I think you can't understand how far we've come unless you know where we came from. And even though you may not be using it in what your eventual field is and all, but I think just having been exposed to that is really good.
Are students sometimes surprised when they go to some of these places and say, they were actually able to perform medicine with this type of equipment?
Yes, and that's one of the reasons I'm real excited about this trip. We're going to see some of the anatomical theaters where they did the human dissections and just imagining what it was. And they also did the surgeries without anesthesia and things like that. So we've learned a lot about dissection this semester.
And the appreciation for the tools and things that you have now that they didn't have back then.
I hope that's one thing that they realize, that they didn't have to go through really crude experiments and everything. So
set the basis for what you have today.
Exactly.
And all that together. Well, when you look at Missouri Southern, 21 years, you have worked with the students and the staff. As far as the campus changing itself, what stands out most in your mind as far as the campus itself?
Well, the building's pretty much, I mean, they may have renovated inside, but and one or two changed names along the way. But I've always felt that it's a really nice, fairly compact university, and I've been so excited the last few years seeing students on the oval playing frisbee or hacky sack or what have you, because we didn't see that a whole lot when I initially came here, and I missed it because that's what my undergraduate, we were out on the quad all the time and everything. So it's really nice that the students, I think, now are feeling that they can do that.
That's their space.
That's their space, you know, use it and all. I've also been really impressed at the changes with the library, because when I started, well, first of all, we didn't have the electronic subscriptions.
We had
books, and books are very expensive in my field, so we couldn't always get what we needed, and so I'd usually have to email the professor and say, could you send me a copy of your paper? They usually were very good about that. And then when they got the electronic, I don't know how many times I've thanked Wendy for that, because it just opened up a whole nother world that the students could actually get to the papers that they needed to write their papers and that type of thing. So that's been a great change.
A major impact on research and ability to get to the original sources.
Exactly. And then health science with the new building and all. And if it hadn't been for them, dental hygiene moving to the health science building, we were able to move down and expand our anatomy and physiology in the cadaver lab and all, so that really was good.
So all kind of tied together as campus developed.
It does. It really does. And now we've got the renovation, and of course Nixon Hall is going up. And now I think I have a better idea because they're drilling, so we can hear that in the building.
You look out the window and say, oh, that's where the building's going.
Exactly. And I realized how much we did miss when we were down at the other building.
Well, I know people know you're retiring. Any specific plans for retirement that you're looking forward to?
I do. I'm actually moving to Colorado. Most of my family lives in Colorado, even though we all started in Iowa, but they've moved out for jobs and all. And my mom turned 91, and I really want to be a lot closer to her, so I'll be about 45 minutes away instead of 11 hours. And hopefully get to spend some quality time with my family, because I've always been the one that's been elsewhere.
The family's here, you're there. Right?
Exactly, exactly. So it'll be just my brother up in Alaska that'll be the oddball out one. So
great.
But yeah, so I plan on doing a lot of. I've always wanted to write, and I think hopefully I'll have the time now to do some writing and follow some of my hobbies and things like that. So I'm looking forward to it.
So you have a nice checklist of I would like to do
these
items.
Yes.
When you go into retirement, have a plan. You have a plan in place.
I feel I have to have a plan, because otherwise I don't think I'd get anything done. And I like to stay busy. So.
Well, any final words of advice you would give to someone here at Missouri Southern?
It's a great place. I would say for the faculty and the students, take advantage of everything that's offered. Even if you think it costs a lot, such as some of our trips and everything, do it, because you're young now. When you get married and have kids and everything, you may not be able to. So Southern has so much to offer, and I've really realized that over the years, that you need to take advantage of everything, because it's going to make you a better person and better for getting to where you want to go with your career.
To help reach those goals that they come in with.
Right. Exactly.
Well, Dr. Roettger, I'd like to thank you very much and wish you the best of luck in retirement.
Thank you.
Thank you for your years of service here at Missouri Southern.
Thank you. It's been enjoyable.
You're welcome. And I'd like to thank you, the viewers, for joining us this week on Newsmakers. I'm Judy Stiles. Hope you can join me again next week at the same time on this station. We'll see you then.